Welcome sailing team. This is a short video on the rules and the idea of sportsmanship and what should you do when a rule is broken. So I've copied some pieces out of the rule book here, and the basic principles: sportsmanship, body of rules that competitors are expected to follow and enforce. A fundamental principle of sportsmanship, and again, sportsmanship is sort of a key here, is that when competitors break a rule, they will promptly take a penalty. That's the 720-degree turn. In some races, you're not allowed to do that, in which case you have to retire, which means you basically drop out of the race. Okay, so we don't throw trash in the water. That's the second basic principle. Part one. These are the fundamental rules. Obviously, safety, we won't spend a lot of time on these. You have to help those in danger. You have to have a life jacket readily available for high school sailing. You have to have it on. And then let's look at fair sailing. A boat and her owner, or her skipper, shall compete in compliance with recognized principles of sportsmanship. So this goes back to the fundamental rules and fair play. So you shall, that's mandatory, compete in compliance with recognized principles of sportsmanship and fair play. It's not often that this rule is invoked, but if you are disqualified for not fairly sailing, you can't drop that and shall not be excluded from your score. Actually, in high school sailing, you can't drop any scores. Everything has to be counted. Okay. Let's go to some more fundamental rules. By participating in a race, each competitor agrees to be governed by the rules. Okay, so yeah, we're going to follow them, and to accept penalties. So if we foul someone, we will do a 720 or we'll drop out. This little clause here says you can't sue them. Well, I don't think we're going to be having minors sue. Decision to race is, or continue racing, is your decision alone. I can't tell you to go out there and race. You can say no. And number 5 is you can't use drugs. Okay. Let's look at the basic, and there's really only 8 rules. Okay. So these are the basic right-of-way rules when boats meet. So think starboard port, windward leeward, clear ahead, clear astern. A boat has right-of-way over another boat, and the other boat is required to keep clear. This italicized keep clear is a defined term, so I pulled this out of the definitions here. So in the front of the rule book, there's a whole list of definitions, but from the definitions, keep clear says a boat keeps clear of a right-of-way boat if the right-of-way boat can sail her course with no need to take avoiding action. So if you have right-of-way, you basically keep going the way you want to go. And when the boats are overlapped, if the right-of-way boat can also change course in both directions without immediately making contact, then the other boat is keeping clear. Okay. So here's your first right-of-way rule, if you will: opposite tacks. When boats are on opposite tacks, a port tack boat shall keep clear of a starboard tack boat. So here's 2 boats. This is starboard tack. Wind is coming over the starboard side. This is port tack. And the port tack boat shall keep clear. So probably tack would keep clear, right? That would work. If it's so close that maybe you can't tack, you probably should have taken action a little bit sooner. So let's say we're over here. You might want to go astern of the starboard tack boat, like that. So that would also be a good choice to do if you were the port tack boat. Okay. On the same tack and overlap. So now we have 2 boats maybe going downwind, and they're on the same tack and they're overlapped, and maybe you're heading down towards the gate mark down here. Okay. So in this case, let's see, the booms are on the starboard side. And so these both boats are on port tack. Port and port. Wind is again coming like this. The boats are on the same tack, they're overlapped. That's a defined term. It means that if you run a line perpendicular to the transom, it will intersect one of the other boats. Got that? A windward boat shall keep clear of a leeward boat. Windward and leeward are also defined. The windward side is the side opposite the boom. So this is the windward boat, and this is the leeward boat, and the windward boat shall keep clear. So, you know, in this scenario, you might want to just put a little bit more distance between you and the boat to leeward. That would work fine. Notice, by the way, however, that you might want to jibe, because if you were this windward boat and you jibed over, now all of a sudden you have a starboard port situation. Now the other boat has to get out of your way. Now, how soon that happens, we'll talk about in just a minute when we have some limitations on acquiring right-of-way. But basic rule, when boats are on the same tack and overlap, a windward boat shall keep clear of a leeward boat. Okay. On the same tack and not overlapped, this is, again, typically found running downwind. So here's a boat, and here's another boat. If the wind is coming from behind, oftentimes this boat here will block the wind, and this one will go slower. So you are now on the same tack. You're not overlapped. A boat clear astern, this is the one clear astern, shall keep clear of the boat clear ahead. Okay. This may also happen at times going upwind. So let's suppose there was a boat that tacked over onto starboard, and there's another boat down here, and this boat's charging along, and this boat is, for some reason, the jib got tangled up, or maybe the sail's not luffing, or the sail's not full, and this boat is going slow after the tack. Notice that this boat is going a little bit faster. You cannot run into the back of another boat. But again, there are some limitations on, you know, how close do you have to be for this rule to not apply. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay. Rule 13, it seems a little wordy. If we look at it, it says, while tacking, after a boat passes head to wind, she shall keep clear of the other boats until she is on a close hauled course. During that time, rules 10, 11, and 12 do not apply, so we don't have to worry about these guys. If the two boats are subject to this rule at the same time, in other words, they're both tacking at the same time, which seldom happens, then the one on the other's port side or the one astern shall keep clear. Okay, so let's sort of think what's happening. You have tacked and you've passed head to wind. So at this point, okay, from this moment to the moment that you are on a close hauled course to this moment, during all of this time in here, you have got to keep clear of other boats. So if there's a boat coming up on port tack, you can't do that. You would be in violation because you are not keeping clear of that boat that's on port tack. Likewise, if there was a boat directly, you know, astern over here coming fast during this entire motion, you've got to keep clear of this guy, and if he's going fast, you are going to break the rule of you shall keep clear of the other boats. And it says until she's on a close hauled course. That typically means 45 degrees off, the main is full, the jib is full. Okay. If it's unclear, a lot of skippers will, you know, they're tacking. So, okay, it's clear that we're heading up, sails are luffing. When you get over onto a close hauled course, if there's other boats around, you might want to hail close hauled and just say that word loud enough so other people know that you are now close hauled, and now Rule 13 does not apply. Okay? I won't look at the second clause of 13 right now. Okay, Section B, these rules, 14 and 15, 16, talk about changing course, 17, the idea of proper course, and that's a procedural rule we'll look at in just a minute. Okay, so these guys here, these three rules are limitations on the previous rules. Number 14, a boat shall avoid contact with another boat if reasonable possible. So if there is contact, then somebody broke this rule. Rule 14 is broken when there is contact. Okay, a boat shall avoid contact if reasonably possible. And then they talk about some, you know, exceptions. A right-of-way boat, say you're on starboard, or one entitled to room or mark room, need not act to avoid contact until it's clear the other boat is not keeping clear or giving room. And the right-of-way boat shall be exonerated if she breaks Rule 14 and the contact does not cause damage or injury. Okay, so let's go back to a port starboard thing again. It's pretty clear that the starboard tack boat has right-of-way, and this boat is supposed to stay out of the way. Well, boats sail a little bit closer, and all of a sudden it becomes clear to you, this is you, that the port tack boat is not keeping clear, is not getting out of your way. Well, this says that your boat shall avoid contact if reasonably possible. So what should you do? You don't just sail and let them ram you, which unfortunately sometimes happens. You don't allow that. Instead, you avoid contact probably by tacking. So, here's this boat and here's you. And what you should do is throw the tiller down hard and spin the boat, get out of their way, and then yell protest. And if you want to, you can even quote the rule. Remember the port starboard rule? What number? Right there. Rule number 10. Protest, rule 10. Okay? Or you can just say protest, starboard tack. Now, if you really want to go this way, it's not a good idea to avoid the direction you want to go. So it's commonplace, if you are on starboard tack and you see a boat coming, it's been known to happen that the port tack boat may not see you. So if you're in this scenario and you see a port tack boat coming and you can anticipate there may be an altercation, when they're far away, yell starboard. Just, you can even yell their sail number, or if you know their school, you can say, starboard, Norfolk Academy. And maybe the skipper and crew over here are all busy with talking about something else that they don't see you. And simply by hailing, starboard, you may bring it to their attention that, oh yeah, there is a starboard port here. They need to do something. They may go behind you. They may tack underneath you. But for heaven's sakes, we don't want them to ram you, even if you have the right of way. So hailing starboard is a common thing to do. Okay. Now, what I really wanted to have this whole discussion about is this idea of acquiring right-of-way. This is sort of a sticky wicket when it comes to the rules. When a boat acquires right-of-way, she shall initially give the other boat room to keep clear, unless for some reason you get right-of-way because of the other boat's actions. I'm not going to worry about that right now, so let's just sort of ignore that. There's some situations where that will happen. Let's focus on this. Okay, so when you acquire right-of-way, you shall initially give the other boat room to get out of the way. Here's the typical scenario. You've got boats sailing upwind on port tack. All these boats are on port tack. The wind's coming like this, and maybe this is the ley line. So the mark is up here somewhere. And your intention now would be to turn and tack and sail on the ley line and go around the mark. That's sort of what you want to do. Now, we have these other boats around. When we tack, okay, so we're turning into the wind, this boat's moved a little bit. Now we tack over, and remember during all of this time right in here, we don't have any rights until we're on a close hauled course. This boat's moved to here, and now all of a sudden we have acquired the right of way. So at this point we have starboard tack, and the other boat cannot get out of our way. So we have just violated, the starboard tack boat has violated this rule. When a boat acquires right of way, she shall initially give the other boat room to keep clear. And the way I've drawn it, if this is position 1 and 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 3, right at the end of 3, we have acquired our right of way. We've finally gotten onto a close hauled course. Okay, remember all of this time we don't have any rights because we're tacking. We get on a starboard course. We now have right of way. This is a port tack boat. But unfortunately, we've tacked too close. We have broken this rule. So shame on us. We've broken Rule 15. What should we have done? Well, if the boats are close, there's not much you can do in this scenario. I mean, if the boats are close to one another and you want to tack, you're going to have to wait for the other boat to tack. Now, suppose there's a good distance in here. And so you might be separated by 3 to 4 boat lengths, maybe. I think now you have sufficient room to go ahead and turn your boat, tack the boat, and at this point you finish your tack, so you yell close hauled. Remember, you have no right-of-way during this part of the maneuver, but once you've reached the close hauled course, you yell close hauled, and now you look over here and you see this port tack boat coming at you, close hauled, starboard tack, and at that point, this port tack boat has to start, begin giving way. So they have to start getting out of the way. And now in this drawing, there's plenty of room. If you were to continue going like this, they could start to bear away and go behind you, or they have plenty of room here to tack and sail a parallel course like that. That could work. So they have a number of options. Now, unfortunately, what happens many times, and I think this happened to Erin last weekend, they were sailing along, they tacked, and she probably tacked well enough. She said this was, probably about 10 seconds. Well, 10 seconds is a long amount of time. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7 1,000, 8 1,000, 9 1,000, 10 1,000. Plenty of time for the port tack boat to get out of her way. Unfortunately, these guys could have been looking around, looking up that way. Maybe they were looking at the mark, trying to figure the ley line. And they didn't see, let's say this is Erin. They did not see Erin tack. Erin. Okay. So what should she have done? She should have made her presence known. She knows that there's plenty of room here. She tacks expediently, knowing that all during this time she has to stay out of everybody's way because she's tacking. And then she acquires the right-of-way at this point. She yells close hauled, and then she yells over here, starboard, starboard. And then all this time, starboard boat, starboard. And that port tack boat knows that she's there. Yell them in their eyes, look at them in the eyes and yell at them, starboard, get out of my way, starboard. Okay, but again, you had 10 seconds to do this. So there should be no reason why the boat is going to ram you. And if you give them plenty of room to keep clear and you let them know that you're there. Now, granted, it's their responsibility to have a lookout and make sure they don't go running into people. But we know from past experience that boats don't keep proper lookouts. And oftentimes, you'll be in a contact situation that you should not have been in. So yeah, talk to these people. And in fact, if you're close enough, and you're going up the course together, it's not improper. I mean, I do it all the time. When you look over your shoulder and you see this boat over on port tack, and maybe you're sitting here and they're sitting there, and you say, I'm going to tack. I'm gonna tack. And then you turn and you say, tacking. You can even say that, tacking. Now, realize that you have no right-of-way during this tacking maneuver, right? And not until you're on that close hauled course do you acquire the right-of-way. But if you just sort of inform, this guy over here what your intentions are, what you're actually doing, then they can sort of be aware of it. Okay, yeah, they're tacking. I see they have no rights. No rights. And in fact, they may even inform you. They could yell you, hey, no rights. And you go, yeah, I know, I got it. I'm tacking, I don't have any rights. But then once you get on the close hauled course, you can yell close hauled. right? Close hauled and starboard tack. And at that point, you do acquire the rights, and there should be enough room in here for them to get out of your way. Okay? I'm going to stop this little video here. There is one other thing I do want to sort of mention. This was we'll come back to that one later. Same tack, proper course. This was the procedural rules. This is sort of incorporated into our sailing instructions by the Interscholastic Sailing Association. And it talks about coaching, so we just need to be aware of this, limitations of the action of a coach. So this first bit about is coaching on the water, don't have to deal about that. Let's look at before protesting. So before protesting, it does say a competitor shall not communicate with anyone other than teammates. Okay, so you can talk to each other or other competitors. You can even talk to the people that you want to protest before reporting to the race committee an intention to file a protest. Now, the race committee is the folks on the water, and the way I read this, this says that, you know, you cross the finish line and you say, I am going to protest, right? Breaking this rule may be grounds for closing the protest hearing. I'll have to investigate this a little bit more. You know, when is the intention to file a protest made? According to the sailing instructions, it's when you cross the finish line. So as you're going down the course, you can talk to each other. You can talk to other boats. Hey, I think I'm going to protest you. You cross the finish line. You report to the race committee. I intend to file a protest. But I cannot, you know, if I was out on the water, I could not, as you're heading down the last legs, say, hey, Aaron, protest that boat, because that would be communication with somebody other than a teammate, so anyone other than a teammate. Okay, and I'll investigate that a little bit more as to what we can do and what we cannot do before you actually fill out the form. Again, this is reporting to the race committee and intention to file a protest. Okay, let me stop this guy here, and hopefully we'll be on the water tomorrow.